Record. Well, hello, Carmen. How are you, darling?
Hello, hello. I am well, thank you. Thank you for
What a crazy time,
me.
yeah? I promise you guys, we're not going to talk about politics, but part of what we do in breathwork is feeling what is alive. So, I feel we're in a powerful shift happening in the world, and everybody's like waiting for some kind of an answer to all our problems. I was wondering, Carmen, how are you doing, and what's your relation to all that?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. There is much swirling in the world right now. And it's really a time when I actually anchor into my own practices and remind myself, okay, my outer world is a reflection of my inner, and how can I come back to myself to really come back to my center and ground in during the waves of everything that might be happening around me. It's, I guess, that delicate balance of being aware of what's going on and not being consumed by it. In
Mm.
breath, I talk a lot about, okay, let's be witness to what might be flowing versus consumed by. And I think that that's a really great thing to also take into our external life experiences as well. How about you? How are you doing with it all?
You know what? I'm going to say two things, and I think the second one is pretty controversial. But before I say that, I say I'm French. I don't watch politics. I don't care. I think, I have no attraction to what's going on in politics. I don't respect, and I only despise everything. I'm an environmentalist, so everything Trump is doing is just wild and crazy, and the fact that he's in power is beyond my own consciousness. But two things. First, it feels like we are waiting, or some people are waiting for someone to save them. And whether it's one candidate or another, it's always the same idea that someone else is going to save me. A doctor is going to heal me. And he called me, and no one is going to come and save you. And that's the beauty of breathwork we're going to dive in. It's you have all the resources from within. And when you realize it's not love that is going to save me, it's not money, it's not fame, it's not some kind of politician who's going to come with better solutions. I have it all within, then we are on the right track. So more empowering people with the future. Now, I'm always interested in the psychology of things. And here is what I think Trump is so successful. And this is interesting for us because I feel that he's just being himself. And that's not something that means to be admired, but he doesn't care, or he gives the impression that he doesn't care. He talks out of his ass. He says things that are completely crazy. He says one thing and another. But for most people, what they're looking for is authenticity. And when I do breath work and I guide circles and people are speaking their truth, no matter what their truth is, they're not trying to be accepted by anyone. They're just speaking their truth. People love that. And I find that at a subconscious level, people are attracted to the fact that someone is just being who he is. And they admire that. They want that. And that's a deep down belief that we all want to be us. And I don't know, maybe it's quite controversial and people think that maybe he's manipulating all this and it's great. I don't know. I feel that he's a pretty simple guy, not very smart, and people appreciate that someone is finally being authentic out there. And that's, for me, one of the reasons of his success and attraction to people in general. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I really hear and receive your perspective with it. And I think that it draws on some really important points of being able to show up in who we are in the moment, right? And there is still a piece of radical self-responsibility and understanding how our ripple ripples. And we also as humans work within the current capacity that we have. So I think that you touched on a really important piece of, again, that empowerment of saying, okay, there is all of this that's happening. There is, all of these things that are potentially and appear beyond my control. So what is within my control, and how can I then come home again, that piece of like, how can I come home to myself? How can I come home to my center so that I can show up in the best way that I know how and within my capacity, for really being mindful of the ripple that I'm rippling out there, right? And so I think that that's a huge piece. And I mean, I know that's a big anchor of why we both share such a deep love for the breath, is that it offers us that opportunity to come home to sovereignty, to self-governance, to reclaiming those parts of us that we may have actually given away to, like you said, whether it's a person, a place, a thing, an ideology, you know, an old paradigm, a social construct, and really bringing that back into ourselves and evaluating, okay, what is true for me? And what is true in the words that I speak and how I show up in the relationships that I have, and how can I show up more authentically in any given moment? You know, how can I show up with more acceptance for who I am and what is happening around me in any given moment?
I love everything you said. And I love the part where you say that we want to be authentic and real and connected to self, and that breath work is a tool to get there. But before we go further, I think we've hooked everyone who's watching. Now let's start by, you know, rewinding a bit. The hook is done. So please, can you say your name, where you are right now, and tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah. Let that dust settle, and then let's start in the way that we both love, by saying, okay, cool, we're here now in this moment, and we've landed in ourselves with each other, which is so special. So my name is Carmen Ganne, and I work as a breathwork and human connection specialist. I'm currently based on the West Coast in Canada. And so, it feels so special to land with you. I'm grateful our paths have woven together. So I share a trauma-sensitive, conscious, connected breathwork that specializes in the science and spirit of connection. So really looking at how our relationship to our breath is reflected in the relationship to ourselves, but also into the relationships in our inner circle and, you know, beyond, right? Again, that ripple piece of how we do one thing is typically how we do everything. And so really looking at the unique breath pattern that each of us have as our fingerprint. And then from that point, empowering ourselves to know that this is the breath pattern that I have in this moment, and it's shiftable and changeable. And I have the ability to create new patterns and new neural pathways and all those sorts of things.
And you said a word that I would like you to know. You said it's science-based, or you really based on science. So it's interesting because it's not often the case when you talk about breath work. With often you hear, you know, more of a intuitive, spiritual. So just can you specify a little bit more about your approach to the breath? And if you talk about science, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, thank you. I think for myself, it's really important to have a balance. And so I resonate deeply with the spirit, the magic of the breath, and how we can be intuitively guided. Our body's always speaking to us. We are students of our bodies and the spirit of the breath as well. And I think it's really beautiful to be able to ground some of that exploration within the framework of the science, the physiology of our body temple, and the function of our nervous system, and how deeply and profoundly the practice of conscious connected breathwork can shift and impact it as well. So really looking at what it means to complete cycles within the nervous system, as well as what it is to forge new neural pathways.
So do you explain that to your students before they breathe? Do you get them to actually understand what's going on before they surrender to the breath?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it kind of depends who I'm sitting with at the time. You know, being able to have the knowledge base of science, of spirit, and in the center of how those relate in our human experience, so our human relation aspect of ourselves, and really speaking to where the breather or where the group is at. So I guess my mission is to really connect everybody to the power and potency of the medicine that they carry within, which is their relationship to their breath. So in that, creating the bridge through whatever feels most accessible and digestible for them. So if I'm sitting with somebody that feels really drawn to and connected to science, then I'll draw on those principles a little bit more heavily. If somebody's really connected to the spirit of the breath, then okay, cool, let's dive in and explore all things in the spirit realm. And if somebody's really wanting to explore their relationships, then we'll speak at it from that perspective as well.
And I love definitely that idea resonate with the feeling what is alive and being of service to what is present and meeting people where they are. I think that's very important. Okay, so tell us a bit about the science of breathing. What the principles that you refer to? Would you mind sharing them with us?
Yeah, well, I mean, we think about our system and breath, and this is something that's come up as people find out, okay, you're a breathwork practitioner. Like, what does that mean? You help people breathe. I'm breathing all the time. And what we know about the breath is that, yes, of course, it's an automatic function. And if we breathe simply with no awareness to the fact that it's an automatic function, it's actually going to reflect in probably a pretty surface level experience of life. And, it's going to actually show in the depth of our lived experience. And so what we know about from a physiological perspective is that as we shift the quality of our breath, we actually start to shift the quality of the experience within our system. So what that starts to do, obviously, is shift and change the function of the different systems within our body. So we can shift, obviously, our respiratory function, our circulatory, our endocrine and glandular system. It starts to impact our digestive system as well, as we start to restore actual, what we think about oxygen as, in some is dubbed the king healer. So as we start to restore the flow of oxygen through the body, we start to support our system on a cellular level. And
okay. So that's interesting.
Really cool.
Sorry, if you don't mind, I'll just jump in there, because connected breath is often criticized by a whole bunch of breath workers, because basically when you do this connected breath, you get rid of a lot of CO2. So it doesn't have, it basically reduces the optimization of delivery of oxygen to the different organs. So how do you justify connected breath from a physiological perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it touches on a couple of things. So one, again, of course, that there's many styles of breath work and with many different intentions. And so in that, I always like to say that there's many ways and there's not the way. And so it really depends, again, on meeting the individual where they're at and what really speaks to what their intention is and what's needed and what's alive, as you say, for them in that moment. The other thing from a physiological perspective is about maintaining balance within the system. So different styles of conscious connected breath work have different qualities to them, I guess, from that perspective. So yes, of course, there can be an imbalance that's created within the system if the volume of the inhale is not matched by the volume on the exhale. And so that can shift the blood chemistry and that can create physiological responses in that way. When I share conscious connected breath, I really share with an emphasis on having the volume of the inhale, so the volume of the breath received, to actually match the volume of the exhale, so the volume of the breath expelled.
How do you do that?
So it actually comes from, it's the idea of like, okay, there's 50% effort with the inhale and then there's 50% ease with the exhale. So it's really focusing on that soft, open exhale. So then
you do it through
I'm
the
getting
mouth?
out of the way.
Both the inhale and exhale are done through the mouth?
Yeah, and then in and out the mouth for a couple of different reasons that we can chat about And so just to, I guess, close that one loop of saying, okay, well, it's as I breathe in and receive that in, I'm actually going to match it. So typically what that means is that if you have an active inhale in which you receive, you've got to have a really surrendered, open, and relaxed exhale to allow that same volume of air to release out of the system. Typically, if we have any constriction in the throat, or we're tense in the jaw, or we're trying to expel all of the air out, and like you spoke to, we'll end up creating that imbalance where we're not actually releasing as much in terms of volume.
So,
and so yes, in and out the mouth. I don't know if
some practitioners, in order to go with what you say, when I breathe through the nose, I get less air in and out. When I breathe through the mouth, I get more air in and out. So some people will take an inhale through the nose and an exhale through the mouth, kind of guaranteeing that now I'm for sure getting at least as much oxygen, CO2 out than oxygen that I get in, if not more. Can you speak to the nose inhale rather than mouth inhale, what it does, if you know?
Yeah. And I feel like this is a really hot debate in breath community, is like nose versus mouth, what's right? And, can I bring everybody into my way? And again, for me, it's looking at, okay, well, what is the intention and who are we sitting with? So the reason that, in and out the mouth, there's a somatic link between the jaw and the hips, the pelvic region. And so we know the hips and the pelvic region govern our lower energy centers, our root, which ties us into our sense of safety, security, and just landing in the body, which is so important in our deeper practices to have that sense of embodiment, before we necessarily reach up and out. The other thing, as you spoke to, is that in and out the mouth, you're able to pass a larger volume of air. So you're able to create a stronger electromagnetic current that flows through your system with a conscious, connected, a circular rhythm of breath. And that creates that high vibrational frequency that sweeps through the system as it picks up the lower density frequencies to be felt, to be transmuted. Now, sometimes people are really challenged by breathing in and out the mouth. If you breathe in the mouth and out with a soft exhale, the volume is going to be matched. If you breathe in and out the nose in the same way, and the surrendered exhale, the volume of what you take in is going to be matched by the volume of what you release. So, if people are really challenged to do in and out the mouth, in and out the nose is an option. Where, in my experience and where I found the greatest imbalance happens is when we mix the channels. And so you receive in the nose and you release out the mouth, or vice versa, or when there's the constriction in the throat.
Interesting. Because I do it in quite a lot of classes where they actually do in through the nose, out through the mouth. So it seems to be like there is one religion around that practice. Would be interesting to ask them what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's about intention. So this particular practice, in the way that I share Conscious Connected, is an opportunity to create a shift in the breath pattern. And so, again, from a nervous system perspective, it's about feeling those things that we haven't actually allowed ourselves to fully feel, so that it actually isn't governing our responses and reactions within the neural network within our brain. And so, I've worked a lot with pranayama techniques and different breath techniques that do require us to breathe in different ways. And that's where I think that, again, there isn't one way. And it depends on our intention. It depends on our, I guess, our knowledge base and the experience that we're wanting to create there. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, okay, this is the way, this is a way, and this is why. And then, as you share, and I'd love to hear about how you share and why you share in the way that you do, because again, that's a way, and here's why. And I think
Yeah.
that that's really important for people to remember when we're saying that, again, the breath is that piece of empowerment and coming home to ourselves. So, you'd spoke at the beginning of the call of people looking outside of themselves to someone to tell them what to do. And I think that, as we adopt different modalities or techniques, if we're really looking to someone to say, okay, tell me how to do it right, it's again externalizing that with this, okay, I'm actually developing an intimate relationship with the breath, and I'm going to allow the breath to tell me, what I need to know.
And Carmen, you work with individuals in one-on-one and with groups?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
tell us about the difference. What's going on with an individual that doesn't happen with a group, and what happens in the group that doesn't happen in individual? Because people might be wondering, okay, what do I go for?
Yeah. And it's a great question. It's a great distinction. And I think that in an individual session, there's the opportunity for intimacy in learning and understanding what's alive for that person specifically. So again, we carry these unique breath patterns that are our own fingerprint. And from that, we're able to actually learn about ourselves in a really profound way. So in a one-on-one session, you're able to actually receive individualized and personalized support based on how the breath is moving through you. So you're able to receive the support that you need to potentially navigate through areas that are really alive and wanting to, renegotiate within your system, and cycles that are wanting to complete within your individual system. And so it becomes an experience that's catered to the individual. Now, in a group, go ahead.
No. And what would be the benefit? Why not go only for that? Why go for a group one?
Yeah, and so I think that there's such a power in the group experience, in the reflective nature of sitting with others and learning and journeying together. Because of that reflective nature of our human experience, when we're in a group, I see you and it's like I see you in me and I see me in you. And there's a deeper levels of experiencing the collective in those situations, I find. And there's, again, I think a little bit of personal exploration of saying, okay, I'm within the safety of a supported container, and I have the autonomy to navigate and explore what's coming through me in the way that feels true for me. And also feeling into what's alive and moving through the room, knowing that as it ripples through one, it ripples through all. And so personally, I think a combination of both is great. Okay, in an individual now, I understand and learn and am empowered with the knowledge of my own breath pattern and how to support myself through shift, whether that's how I'm breathing, how my body is positioned, different tools that I can use to support opening places that may have previously been blocked. And then I can go into a group experience and drink in the community and the collective reflective nature of it.
Carmen, thank you for that. I think that's great, and I do agree with what you shared. Tell us some good stories. What has happened? The most incredible transformation you've witnessed, and walk us through how did that happen? If a particular story comes to mind, it would be interesting for people who are not so familiar with breathwork. Just one or two stories that comes to mind.
Yeah, great question. I think that what immediately comes to mind is the impact that it has in relationship. And so
in your own, you're referring to, or
well, yes, of course, deeply. And I think that that's a really important distinction. As you said that, I was like, well, the most important or the most profound transformation that I can speak to is my own.
So tell us about that. How has breathwork improved your relation with your partner?
Yeah, it becomes a really important tool for regulation for myself. Of course, I was gifted and have a very hypersensitive and aware system. And so it really helps me to ground and connect with my body, and to be really present to what is moving and shifting that perspective of how I navigate and manage the flow of energy through my system. And when we're in relationship with someone else, we have the capacity and the ability to co-regulate each other. So when we think about like creates like, so if I'm activated and anxious and my partner is, that's really going to escalate us both to a point at which, you know, we're going to have to outlet it somehow, right? And whether that's individually or between each other. And so I think it's really helped with understanding and owning that piece of, okay, what is mine in this? What am I bringing to this? And how can I shift my state to impact and really, to really shift the dynamic between us. From a more practical level, it has shifted our communication remarkably. So when we get into a situation where maybe we're caught in an old story, or we're maybe in a moment actually more concerned with being right than being connected, if we can step back, take a moment to breathe. And, you know, we hear it all the time, oh, just take a breath, just breathe, whatever. Literally taking a few moments to connect my breath and breathe, it shifts from the space of the ego, that, you know, really story-based dynamic and communication, and drops us into a level of soul communication. Okay, so now we're really feeling through what's going on. And oftentimes what we find afterwards is the speaking about it isn't as relevant anymore, because what I was feeling was actually something that was moving through me, and I was using my partner as the landing pad for that, right? Saying, okay, well, it's this that's happening that I'm feeling this way, instead of saying, okay, well, actually I'm feeling this way and I can shift that, and not actually take it out on my partner. So I think that's been a huge thing of shifting from reactivity to responsiveness.
Wow, beautiful. From ego to we go, as Wim Hof says.
Ah, love it. Yes, yes, yes.
He's good with this kind of, you know, punchlines. So
yeah,
Carmen,
that's strong. I love that one.
I'm curious about your morning practice. How do you do what you do? You know, what's going on in the morning with Carmen?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's a great one. I personally anchor into my morning practices, and they're really important to me to be able to set the tone for my day. So I have actually started to get up a lot more naturally, and when I have an alarm, I label my alarms because I like them to be little messages. And so it's like, okay, I'm choosing to awaken right now, and knowing that in that it's a conscious choice.
So you put a name on your wake alarm.
Yeah,
you just put a name. So what's the name of your alarm?
I choose to awaken.
I choose to awaken. Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
That's
so
fun.
And it's just like, again, that reminder of, okay, every breath is a choice. Every inhale
what ringtone do you use? What's your alarm clock sounds like?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, currently right now it's Baba Hanuman by Krishna Das.
So it's your own music. So you just play a tune that you like, okay, rather than a it's like you're okay.
Yeah, that would be
take my
Yeah, exactly. And so from a nervous system perspective, that could potentially be quite jarring. And so really allowing the transition to be as important as the journey. So transitioning with ease. And what I've really actually had to come into is and this is something a beautiful coach of mine shared with me, never hitting the snooze, and just like that 1, 2, 3, get up. And how much of a difference that makes in terms of simply waking up the system. So that's a little bit about how I transition and awaken. And then for me, it's a combination of breath, silent meditation, unwinding movement, and being outside and in nature. So really committing to, even if I can't, go fully for a bike ride or run based on my schedule, sticking my head out the window and saying, okay, I'm actually receiving fresh air first thing to shift and have that be the foundation with which my day unfolds. And if I have those days where I miss, I really feel and notice it too in my system. And so really recognizing and loving those anchoring practices. Yeah.
What kind
What
of
about
breathwork
you?
do
What
you
are
do?
your daily practices?
Let's continue. Just what kind of breathwork do you do? I can answer, no problem.
I
Just curious of what is your morning breathwork practice for a breath worker?
Yeah, I actually sit with and connect my breath for, depending on the time that I have, I'll just drop into the connected rhythm of the, again, that 50% effort, 50% ease. So really finding my own circular rhythm and connected rhythm
Through the mouth.
to really invite really invite the spirit of the breath into my day, my being, and connect with it at that
For
point.
how long?
It depends on the time that I have available, but typically, 15, 20 minutes. Once a week, I'll do a full journey. I'll drop into, a 60, 90-minute journey.
By yourself?
And
You just put some music on and you just go by yourself, or someone is holding space for you?
typically on my own. I still love to be facilitated, and I love to share the breath with others. So when I do have the opportunity to be facilitated either virtually or in person, I jump on that. Or I love also to be experimented with. And so as students are learning and wanting to practice, I'm happy to journey with them in that way. And there's beautiful intuitive softwares like Spotify that just generate music based on what you listen to, and so it becomes quite easy to fashion playlists and things
It's
like that.
scary at the same time, no? They know you better than yourself.
Terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell
So
us a little bit, Carmen, what are your current, I'm conscious of the time, and you told me you have a meeting next. So what is your offering at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm actually, as of next week, dropping into a 6-week journey, a reclamation of the breath. So journeying in a group and being able to develop a really profound and deep relationship with your own breath, getting to know your breath pattern, getting to know how that shows up in your life patterns, and empowering yourself to be able to shift. And
So you're hosting that, or you're taking part?
Hosting that.
Hosting it. And tell us a bit more about it. So how long is it? How many hours a day? What does it entail?
Yeah, it's a 6-week journey, and it's 90 minutes once a week. We meet live, and it's also supported with weekly embodiment and reflective exercises. So I do a 6 and a 12-week version of that, and I also offer mentorship for the breath. So if it's from a personal perspective of, okay, I just really want to develop my own relationship, I want to reset my own nervous system, I want to empower myself to start to shift either, the patterns that we carry in our body show up as tension, as tightness, as dis-ease, limiting beliefs. I really want to shift those things. So a personal mentorship with the breath over a 3-month period. And then for practitioners who are wanting to deepen their knowledge of the principles of the breath, an opportunity to do a mentorship with professional applications of, okay, how can I now, whether they're breath practitioners and maybe have studied in different modalities, or if they have an established practice of their own, okay, how can I now weave some of these teachings of the breath in to deepen the container that I'm able to hold for my clients in their own transformation?
Beautiful. Oh, we will have all the links to that in the notes of the call. So yeah, so thank you so much. I just want to honor that you asked me about my routine, and I'll tell you what's happening for me at the moment. My big word is to get out of the way. So instead of coming with something quite rigid and strict, and I'm a power guy, so I do this, I'm very structured in my routine, and I can have a 2 hours routine with da da da. But recently, I tend to go more for knowing that what I want is not necessarily what I need. So I'm conscious of that. So just surrendering to more, okay, how can I really feel into what my body needs right now, and accordingly give it to the body. So yeah, can be a bike ride, can be some yoga movement, can be some breath. I'm enjoying the nails at the moment. I don't know if you've played with nails, but I have a proper Russian crazy. I have a bed full of nails, and I lay down on nails and I do breath work on nails, and that's intense. So yeah, if you want to do breath work next level, yeah, do it on real nails, like it's proper nails, and all through your back.
Oh,
So
wow.
it activates your vagus nerve, and at the same time, you have a lot of pain initially, and you're meeting the pain, and you're surrendering, and you're allowing the pain to come in, and you meet the pain, and you're okay. And then, of course, pain is a signal. Once the body realizes, hey, we're okay right now, and you're fine after a while. So you can spend 40 minutes, 45 minutes on a bed of nails, and you're completely fine. And it's an incredible activation of the nervous system, but it's also releasing tension in the back, and we store so much in our back. The lungs are located in the back, by the way, guys. So when you also create that, you just release all those muscular tensions or that are constructing your airway, so you can go even deeper in your breath work. I mean, some crazy stuff.
Oh, I love it. I honor the medicine that you carry, and just the spirit that you, the way that you embody and show up in such just truth and authenticity. And yeah, I so deeply honor you and the work that you bring to the world. And I think you've touched on something so beautiful and important, is that our medicine is usually, you know, the opposite of what we are, right? And so, okay, it's running high energy, okay, the medicine maybe is a little bit of softness, and
Yeah.
you know, myself too, I really hear that. So
Yeah, this
that's
yin and
awesome.
yang energy is something that we talk about. And just feel, what do I feel like I want to do? Okay, just do the opposite and feel the discomfort. And the idea is to go for the discomfort always. I like to do new things and try new things and eat new things. And okay, is it new, and how can I? And then I can, I can grow. I can go to the next level. So if we want to grow, we need to be grounded. Where are the roots? If you don't have roots, you cannot grow. So you need to have that anchor. And often it comes from ways that you don't expect, and getting a little bit out of your comfort zone. And I really loved, and this would be for another conversation, but you touched about the fact that breath allows you to reconnect with your authentic self. And then after that, it changes your level of connection to others. And I really deeply resonate with that. For me, 50% of the job ends with the breath. Then starts the authentic relating, the circling, and that's for me an integral part of the practice. It says, okay, don't waste a good breath. Okay, now you're raw, you're open, you're connected. What do you do with it? So that's why it's important for me to either journal, or I love to have a beautiful conversation with my favorite human, which is myself. So I just put a mirror in front of me, and I spend 10 minutes. I recommend people to do that. Spend 10 minutes in front of a mirror and talk to yourself. Talk to yourself, not your camera, not for goddamn social media reason. Just have an honest, truthful conversation with yourself, because verbalizing things is very important. And in this time of confinement and lockdown, where people don't have access to communities and maybe are not even ready to open up to circles and groups, just have that honest, conscious connection with yourself in the mirror. So yeah, I tend to do this funny exploration of how we can relate authentically with ourselves.
Oh, I love it. That's such a great nugget. Yeah, and I'm really excited for everybody listening to go actually and try it and see what happens, right? Sitting there, and even sitting there naked in front of ourselves and saying, okay, like, I see all of you,
Yeah.
and I allow
Yeah.
all of you to be here.
And that's a big
Yeah.
one, because people talk all the time about loving. You need to love your body, And I find that there is a misconception about that. It's often considered, we always talk about, oh, it's understood that we talk about the outer shell. I love my body means I love that, I love my imperfections. But for me, loving my body is really about accepting what my body is communicating with me. And if I have a disease, why do I have this disease? If I have a discomfort in my body, inquire and love it and say, hey, I'm loving this because now my body is telling me something and I'm listening to it. So I really like the idea of developing a really loving connection to yourself, but it doesn't come from a place of ego or pride, but just from a place of, how can I develop an intimate connection with my body, and really loving all aspects of it. And we live in a society where we are so disconnected. You know, the doctors own our bodies. It's not us. It's not my cancer. Someone else is dealing with a cancer. You know, so whenever something is imbalance in the body, we have no idea what to do. We have no idea. We have no idea how the body works. And what's so magical about the breath is it's the missing link. It's really what connects all parts of the body. So when you have this intimate connection with the breath that you touched upon, then all of a sudden we are able to heal ourselves. You know, if our thoughts can kill us, our thoughts can heal us. One doesn't go without the other. And the breath is the connector. So yeah, those are a few of the things that we can explore.
Yeah. Oh, and there's just one last thing that's coming to, because I love that so much in terms of understanding that our relationship and our love to our body is also in how we treat it and show up to it and how we nourish it. And why, for myself, my love affair with the breath comes from it being the most vital and important source of fuel and vitality for my body. With every breath, like you said, it's a courageous act of self-love. Like I'm actually now choosing to nourish and love up myself from the inside out, which is.
But you start with that. So you start with that, and it's the problem in our society. We feel we end with that. But once you've done that, everything else falls into place. Of course, you're going to eat well. Of course, you're going to drink well. Of course, you're going to sleep well. Of course, you're going to love well. Of course, you're going to parent well. And, because it comes from an integrity with yourself. But it's not something that is an abstract, I want to eat, I'm going to juice, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take vitamins and all that, and that's going to work. Of course, it doesn't work. Of course, it doesn't work. If you don't do it in an integrative way and with an honest connection with whatever is you're taking in, nothing is going to fix you. And once you realize that, if you don't have the right connection with the food is you're going to intake is not going to serve you. So it's really honoring what it means that my body is my temple. What does it mean? And can you really consider it as such? And all of a sudden, whatever is coming out of my body, whether it's my words, my thoughts, anything is coming out, needs to come out with that intention. Whatever I throw in the world is coming back at me in ways I don't expect. So I can't just, and once you've got that right, everything falls into place and it's easy. It doesn't require any effort. It doesn't require for you to behave in a certain way. It literally flows. Life is easy. We make it complicated. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Just stop using your brain to fix life. Just shut up and listen. And then life is easy.
I love it. This is definitely a daily dose of inspiration from you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, Carmen, I want to honor your time. So where do we find you?
On Facebook and Instagram at Carmen Ganne, and my website is carmenganne.com.
All right.
Happy for anybody to, I like as video, phone chats, those kinds of things. So as close to human connection as possible.
Yes, guys. I lead a teacher training on breathwork, and Carmen was one of the facilitators, and I highly recommend her journey was very transformative, and a lot of people had breakthroughs. So highly, highly, highly recommend. And if you are wanting to facilitate breathwork, if you're curious to find your own breath, well, reach out. We have a deeply transformative journey that I'm offering on January 4th for 6 weeks. So happy to chat about that, guys. Well, Carmen, thank you so much for taking the time with us. I leave you to your beautiful, I'm jealous. I mean, I'd love to go to Canada. It's high on my list. So I will make it one day. I always dreamed there. So happy for that connection. Thank you so much again, and have a beautiful
Yeah.
rest of today, right? It's still daytime for you.
Yeah, we're just rocking in the morning time here,
All
so
right.
it's great. We've got the whole day ahead of us. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you. It's an honor and just a pleasure to know you. So thank
All
you,
right.
thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a beautiful day.